Progress.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone on our Zoom call. Mr. Strom, can you hear me okay over there?
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you.
Excellent. Good afternoon to you. Is this Mr. Buell? Can you hear me, Mr. Buell?
No. Could you make the volume louder? I'm hearing impaired.
Okay, we'll try to turn it up on your end. If Deputy can help accommodate a little bit, I would appreciate it. How about now, Mr.
Okay, you're
I
gonna
heard
have to shout like a drill sergeant. I don't mind, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Buell, I'm going to try to speak up a little bit. Is that any better?
Okay, that's perfect. Do that.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to you, sir. I have you here in open court and on the record. I'm calling the matter of Aaron Buell. This is case number 23-000-753M. Recall, Mr. Buell, this is a case in which you've been charged with resistance or interference with an officer as well as trespassing. Both counts in your case are alleged to have occurred back on October 17th of 2023 at the approximate location of 601 Englewood Parkway at approximately 12:43 p.m. Mr. Buell, did you see a video advisement of your rights today?
No, I did not. I want to tell you right now, Your Honor, I know you guys are overwhelmed with the system. I just want to have a sidebar with you as long as I can. I want to plead the fifth on everything. How long can I talk to you with a sidebar? Because I have a very complicated situation. Representing myself because my lawyer is a moron. I'm pleading the fifth. I don't understand my rights. I'm a severely, gravely disabled individual. I am head injured. I'm requesting immediate assisted living with the group home on behalf of the American Disabilities Act because I am innocent. You have declared war on the homeless, and it's illegal to walk down the street with a beard that's unconstitutional, that's in violation of my Bill of Inalienable Rights, that's in violation of the Constitution of the United States of America, and that's in violation of the Nuremberg Code. I want to see everybody hung in Geneva, Switzerland for being in violation of the Nuremberg Code. I will press 4 charges for false reporting and everything. I don't have any recollection of the event because I can't even walk a block without the same bullshit happening to me over and over again. So I need assisted living just so when I'm walking down the street, the assisted living lady can flash out her badge thing. Because I used to do assisted living and say, this gentleman cannot be arrested. He is fine, but I need a group home immediately.
Okay, Mr. Buell, I heard a lot there.
I'm in unattached housing because I have severe allergies and asthma. And if one person smokes in the apartment, I am screwed. I need to go to a group home. I'm a big boy. I can cook my own meals and do everything, but I can't walk down the streets of Colorado without you guys arresting me for being apparently homeless. It is illegal to do that. I'm representing myself. I don't understand my rights. I don't understand what you're saying. No one read me my Miranda rights. I was arrested illegally. I'm trans, masculine, presenting lesbian, trans rights are real rights. So I need to go to a female group home, or I need to get immediate assisted living where I'm in a smoke-free apartment and the landlord don't play around. No one can smoke because I'm severely allergic to cigarette smoke, and I need that stupid girl with the clipboard to pat me on my head and teach me how to food and tell me everything's a safety thing and she's stupid.
All right, Mr. Buell, I'm going to cut you off for just a moment, and I apologize for doing so.
Just give me a thumbs up if you're going to give me immediate assisted living, or if that's not on the table.
Okay, I've heard your request, and I appreciate those statements, Mr. Buell. Counsel, please enter your appearance on Mr. Buell's behalf. I know we may want to discuss representation here, as I certainly heard Mr. Buell's desire there to represent himself. But Counsel, please enter your appearance on this matter.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is David Strom on behalf of Mr. Buell. He's in custody, and we're appearing on Zoom video today for his arraignment. Your Honor, it was hard for me to talk to him effectively. There's maybe some mental health issues. He does not want me to represent him. We would ask for consideration of a PR bond, though.
Okay, understood. I appreciate that information. And so, Mr. Buell, you're saying you did not see a video advisement of your rights today, correct?
Mental health issues. He is not a psychologist.
No, hold on just a second.
I want to represent myself. He's a moron.
And I've heard you on that. What I'm asking you, Mr. Buell, is whether you saw the video advisement of your rights or not. Did they play you a video at the jail?
There was no video, there was no video that did that. This place is a kangaroo court. The
Understood.
system
Your
is
Honor,
so overwhelmed, I don't want my attorney speaking another word, or I will sue him. You better shut up. I'm representing myself, I have the legal right.
Okay,
to do
Mr.
whatever
Buell, and I hear you. You have a right to that.
100%
I'm going to conduct this
English.
proceeding as I see fit, okay?
Code, Your Honor.
Just bear with me a minute, and I'll try to let you represent yourself in this
No, I
proceeding.
want to do a sidebar. I'm not representing myself. I want to do a sidebar.
I'm not going to give you a sidebar
Mercy
today.
before.
We're not going to do a sidebar today, okay?
When can I do a sidebar? I want housing where I will be in Gen.
Maybe when you come into court next time, we can
Cookies
discuss
and
that.
bread. They've been feeding me nothing but cookies and bread and have a light that's on nonstop. I want to get moved to Gen.
Did you mute him? All right, the jail has muted defendant. It will take a moment here, so just be aware, Mr. Buell, you are muted at this time. I'm unable to hear you. I'll give you just a moment here and I'll turn back to you and ask the jail to unmute at that time. But Mr. Strum, you were making a record basically saying that he's expressed to you that he doesn't want you to represent him. And I apologize, what else were you saying there?
he did want to fire me, and I just wanted to let the court know that the deputy informed me that he would not watch the advisement video.
Okay, thank you for that.
I don't think he saw the advisement video.
And so I'll try to do some basic advisement here on the record as well today in an effort to try to provide those advisements to Mr. Buell. Ultimately, obviously he's being held on $50 cash only bail amount. I guess I'm curious to hear what the city's position on request for personal recognizance on this matter might be, given some concern regarding understanding of the proceedings.
Your Honor, the city objects to any sort of conversion of the bond off to a personal recognizance bond. The defendant in this case, contrary to his statements, he was not arrested or accosted for being homeless. Rather, it's something quite the opposite. He has been repeatedly trespassed from Walmart, and on the date and place alleged in on the citation, the defendant was Walmart called out. They called for help from EPD because the defendant was outside the store. They recognized him. He was making multiple inappropriate comments to female customers and also female staff members from the Walmart. Judge, the behavior has continued to grow worse and worse. He's got another case out of Arapahoe County, out of the state court, where he's alleged to be swinging around a knife on the patio at Noodles and Company, and when contacted by EPD, he has displayed on his hip about a 2-foot-long machete. Judge, modification of bond is inappropriate in this matter for community safety risks outlined before, and also the second component of any sort of bond consideration is the ability of the defendant to present themselves to court. The defendant has failed to appear in this matter at least once in time before. That's 2 out of 2 items that speak to non-modification of the bond, Judge. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you for that information. Mr. Buell, I'm going to try to provide some basic advisements to you, so please just try to pay attention to these advisements, and then I'll ask you some questions about you wanting to represent yourself today, okay? But before I do that, I want to cover some of the highlights about the advisement video that you'd missed today. And, you know, first and foremost, today is your arraignment to be advised of your rights in your case. And the first thing I want to let you know about is that you have the right to a trial in this case. You can have a trial to a judge or a trial to a jury of your peers. In order to secure your right to a jury trial in our court, you do need to request a waiver of a $25 deposit or be granted a waiver. If you remain in custody throughout the duration, I will grant a waiver for you to secure your right to a jury trial in this case. The second thing I want to let you know about is your right to be represented by an attorney. You've already sort of discussed that you would like to represent yourself, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions just to make sure that you understand that you're waiving some right and make a decision about whether or not you're competent and capable of waiving that right here today. But you certainly have the right to be represented by a private attorney of your own choice at your own cost. You can also be granted a court-appointed lawyer, but you also have the right to represent yourself, particularly if the court feels that you're capable and competent of doing that on your own. And I'm going to ask you some questions here in a moment. You're presumed to be innocent of these charges against you at this time, and that means you won't be found guilty of any charge unless you decide to enter a plea of guilty, or at a trial the city can prove you are guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. If you have a trial, the city would be required to bring witnesses to establish that evidence, and you would have the right to ask those witnesses questions on the date of your trial. When the city completes presenting their evidence, you have a right to present your own evidence, but you don't have to present any evidence. You have a right to remain silent throughout the duration of your case. In fact, that's a constitutional right granted to you, and that right, if you choose to exercise, cannot be used against you. In fact, if we have a jury trial, the jury could be instructed that they should draw no conclusions about your guilt simply because you chose not to testify. You have the right to testify your own trial if you wish, and just be aware that if you do testify, you may be cross-examined by the city attorney's office and have to answer those questions as long as I determine they're relevant. If you've ever been convicted of a felony, that information can be used to impeach or discredit your testimony, but not offered as direct proof of your guilt in this case. At the end of the trial, if you felt there was some error, you could appeal the case to a higher court and a different judge. If you enter a plea of guilty or you're convicted at trial, the maximum possible punishment for each offense is 360 days in jail, a fine of $2,650, or both. If you're not a U.S. citizen, a conviction for certain offenses may have consequences regarding your presence in the United States, and you should seek legal advice if you have immigration questions prior to entering a guilty plea or prior to setting a case for trial. If you have prior U.S. military service, you are or are currently a member of the U.S. military armed forces, please be aware that you are entitled to receive mental health treatment, substance use disorder treatment, and other services as a U.S. veteran. Upon request, and you informing us that you are a United States veteran, the court will provide you with a list of service organizations that will assist you in your efforts to obtain these services. Finally, before I decide what punishment to impose in a case where there's been a plea of guilty or conviction at trial, I can review all relevant information about your case, including your criminal history, statements of witnesses, victims, and/or police officers. However, I'll always give you the last opportunity to be heard before sentencing. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Buell if he thinks he understood the advisement. So if I could get the jail to unmute, please.
I do understand the advisement, and I just want to say real quick, they're lying about me. I was never told there was a video I could watch. I did not refuse to do it, so I want to press charges against the prosecuting attorney for false statement and slander, but I don't want to represent myself because I don't believe I even committed a felony. I believe it was a misdemeanor, but I'm not a lawyer. And so I could get tripped up really bad, and I could potentially do, you said 2 1-year sentences? Is that what you said, Your Honor?
No, well, a total of up to 360 days on each count. So yes, just under a year on each potential count. So
okay, I changed my mind. Let me know if this works. I may take a plea deal, but I feel that I'm an indigent and that there is a conflict of interest, and so I'm requesting an out-of-state lawyer. I have that right in this court.
okay, and you felt like you met.
Out-of-state lawyer, not a public defender, and I have no money, so I will have to be housed here for the $25 thing, and the lawyer will need to be absolutely free, and I will plead the fifth instead and do what my lawyer advises, because I may have to just take a plea deal, because this is a kangaroo court.
Okay, just stop talking for a minute, Mr. Buell.
But I will plead the fifth. Like, that's what I'll do with the lawyers advise me.
Please stop talking for a moment, Mr. Buell. Can you hear me? Okay, let's go ahead and mute him.
And it's just a slap on the wrist or just a couple of days, I will.
Go ahead and mute, defendant. Thank you. Sorry about that. I did ask the clerk to mute Mr. Buell. I'm having trouble controlling the proceedings at this point. I think Mr. Buell is open to some representation, I think is what I just heard. Perhaps we can proceed with some of the bond determinations, and if he remains in custody through another date, Mr. Strom, I don't know if you're open to perhaps setting on a date when Mr. Jabili is present and see if Mr. Jabili can have any substantial communications with Mr. Buell and see if Mr. Buell will consent to his representation. Mr. Strom, what do you think about that?
Your Honor, starting Thursday, Mr. Jabili will be here for Thursday and all next week. I'm out, so that could be set at any time next week.
Okay, great.
With Mr. Jabili.
Because given Mr. Buell's conversation today, I'm a little concerned about his ability to understand the nature of these proceedings and why he's in custody. The court may consider entering not guilty pleas on his behalf and hearing from city on determinations on bond. If you would like to make arguments on his behalf today, I'm open to hearing that. And I'll give Mr. Buell one last opportunity to be heard before determinations on that. Does that sound reasonable to you, Mr. Strom?
Of course, Your Honor, I'd be happy to.
City feel the court should enter not guilty, or you want me to ask for a plea?
One moment, let me check my records, Judge.
No problem. Well, you know what, why don't I try to take a plea and we'll go from there. Let's go ahead and unmute defendant. Mr. Buell, I'm going to unmute you. Please try to let me conduct these proceedings and try to answer the questions in front of you, okay?
Your Honor, can I say something really quick?
You may not. You may not. Please stop talking for a moment, Mr. Buell. At this time, it sounds to me like you want to enter not guilty pleas and preserve your rights on these matter and request personal recognizance.
I changed my mind, Your Honor. I changed my mind because when you explain my rights to me, I don't want to do a not guilty plea and I don't want to represent myself. That's a very bad idea.
Okay.
I don't want to do that now. I've changed my mind. I do understand those rights, and I don't want to risk doing a year in jail over this. It's not worth it.
Do you know what the plea offer is in your case or no?
What I want is, I said, I feel that I'm indigent and that there may be a conflict of interest, and so I'm requesting an out-of-state lawyer, and I don't even want to make a determine if I'm guilty or innocent, or if I want to do a plea deal or not until my lawyer.
And so hold on just a second, Mr. Buell. Let me respond, okay? What I'm willing to do is assign a different lawyer for you if you feel like Mr. Strom's not meeting the mark. I think Mr. Strom is willing to give it another try if you want to discuss it with him today. But if we come back on a different day, I'm going to assign a different lawyer to you and see if you can get along with that lawyer. That lawyer's not going to be out of state, though. They have to be licensed attorney from Colorado. And so that attorney is a licensed attorney from Colorado, and we can discuss that a little bit next time. Do you want to try to work with Mr. Strom and reach some disposition today? Is that what you're saying? Or do you want to come back on a different day with a different lawyer?
I'd like to have a lawyer that can meet with me in person and talk to me where I'm housed, because
Sure.
I don't know what I'm doing. But
I understand.
I don't want to go to jail for a year.
Do you think you understand the nature?
I want to make sure the lawyer, I'm probably going to have to plead the fifth and have a competent lawyer to give me a very good plea deal.
Hang on a second, Mr. Buell. Please stop talking for just a second. It sounds to me like you want to enter not guilty pleas today. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with that. I want to enter not guilty, because that means I won't be able to take a plea deal, and the plea deal may be my best option. So if you can give me a really good plea deal, tell me what the best plea deal you can give me, and I may say yes or no.
And I'm not giving you any plea deals. Those come from the prosecutor, but let's hear what that offer is. And hold on just a second, Mr. Buell. I'm going to mute you for a moment. I'm going to come back to you. Did the city make an offer in this case or no?
Yes, Judge, one moment.
And do you feel comfortable trying to proceed with that, or is the city's position that concern regarding understanding, or what do you think?
City doesn't have any concern for the defendant's ability to understand, Judge. The offer in this case is that the defendant would plead guilty to resisting or interfering with an officer. There'd be 120 days jail with 100 days suspended, on the condition that the defendant have no future law violations for the next 1 year period, and also no contract, do not return to Walmart, 601 Englewood Parkway. And any fines and fees would be open to the court based off of the defendant's in custody status and or perhaps indigency.
Okay. Let's unmute Mr. Buell and come back to Mr. Buell. Mr. Buell, do you understand the offer today?
If I refuse the plea deal, but I refuse to plead guilty or innocent, what happens?
Then we'll proceed to a bond hearing and the court will make a decision about your conditions of release from jail pre-trial.
What does that mean? Can you explain that in plain
Yeah,
speak?
and so basically, after you enter a not guilty plea and preserve your rights, the conversation today would move along to determining how to get you out of jail and whether or not you should have to post any monies to get out of jail, or whether you're just going to sign a document promising to appear. I would first take up a request from you for personal recognizance, to just sign a document to promise to appear. I'd hear the city's position on that. I would hear from your lawyer on that if we're comfortable with your lawyer, and then I would hear from you on that and make a decision about how to deal with your issue pre-trial and what your next court date will be. The alternative is, if you think you understand the plea agreement and want to accept that, we could try to do that today. But I do have some concern about your understanding, okay?
Yes, I don't understand. That's my problem. That's why I don't want to have to make a decision without speaking to a lawyer in length. I want to talk to a lawyer for hours in person before this decision is made. Do I not have the right to do this?
Well, you certainly have the right to bond out. You have the right to preserve all your rights and deal with this out of custody at a future date.
If I do that, does that mean I do not get to have a plea deal? Because I may want to do a plea deal.
No, they'll keep that plea deal open for you for a while.
I think a better lawyer could get me a better plea, a better deal if I plead guilty. But I want a lawyer that specializes in the American Disabilities Act, because I'm a gravely disabled individual. I am severely head injured, and so I'm never gonna make it to the court date because all those things about me are absolute lies. You have it down to a science because they knew I was homeless and I was not waving a knife around. I used it to cut open.
Mr. Buell, I'm going to cut you off for just a second, and I apologize for doing that. Please mute Mr. Buell. I apologize. I'm muting Mr. Buell again to try to preserve his Fifth Amendment right on a pretrial matter in a different court. And so at this time, I'm concerned about his ability to proceed. The court's unlikely to take a guilty plea from Mr. Buell today. And so I'm likely to enter a not guilty plea on both charges today and proceed to bond argument today and try to pick a new date. So at this time, the court's going to enter a not guilty plea on Mr. Buell's behalf to charges of resistance or interference with an officer and trespassing, preserving Mr. Buell's rights in this case and setting his case for a pretrial conference as at his next appearance. That'll move our conversation along to determining conditions of release for Mr. Buell. City has already objected to personal recognizance. Is the city requesting any additional conditions of release besides the cash bail?
No contact with the Walmart.
Okay. And I want to hear from Mr. Strom at this time if he wants to make any argument for Mr. Buell on those conditions of release, knowing that this is a little bit of a limited representation and that we're going to try Mr. Jabili next time.
Yes, Your Honor. This is his only hold. It's only $50. He can't pay it, obviously. He's been in for 6 days already. The resisting is obviously not a mandatory PR, but the resisting was not, I don't think, a physical resisting. It was more of a verbal obstruction situation. He only has one FTA on this case. It was recent in December, and so for those reasons, we'd ask the court to consider a PR bond. Mr. Jabili will be back Thursday and Friday and all next week.
Mr. Buell, I'm going to turn to you. I do have a couple of questions for you. I'm going to allow you to make some broad statements for just a moment, but I'm going to cut you off if it gets a little out of control. And I do have a couple questions regarding any contact information, if you're willing to provide any, as far as a phone number or an address or anything like that. But let's go ahead and unmute Mr. Buell. Mr. Buell, do you
say that?
go ahead with? I'm sorry?
I am not pleading not guilty.
Okay.
He just muted me, but it's still being recorded on this end. See how he's a moron, Judge?
I'm sorry? I'm not understanding what you're saying. I apologize.
And they're still going to say, he said he was pleading not guilty, and I'm going to show it to a higher court. They're going to go, what the hell?
At this time, Mr. Buell, I have some concern about your ability to understand the proceeding. I've entered not guilty pleas on your behalf, preserving your rights.
No, listen to me, Your Honor. I am not pleading not guilty. I've changed my mind. I refuse to plead either way until I talk to a lawyer extensively in person in the jail.
Understood.
I refuse to plead.
Let's go ahead and mute Mr. Buell.
At this time.
Okay, Mr. Buell. At this time, I'm going to deny a request for personal recognizance. I'm going to reset the matter. I don't know if the city's got any suggestion on guidance for that. Given the court's concern regarding competency, I'm wondering, if, something short of a formal competency evaluation might be appropriate in this case, something like an all-health evaluation. If Mr. Buell would consent to that, may help inform the parties on potential dispositions, and I think could be accomplished as soon as early next week if we wanted to reset for then. any suggestion from the city as far as when to take up a renewed personal recognizance request in a pretrial conference in this case.
Your Honor, I just ask that that next pretrial not be set any further out than 14 days in this case. He's already been in custody for 6. The plea offer in this matter contemplates the defendant serving no more than 20 days, the remainder being suspended. So I would just ask not to prejudice the
I
defendant.
totally agree, and I'm conscious of that matter, and that's why I'm asking for guidance on when you think it should be set.
Anytime prior to 14 days would be fine with.
And so if I set it this week, we're unlikely to have any additional information for a future bond hearing this week. If I set it for next week and order all health over there, we may have some additional information. I'm just not sure if the parties are looking for additional information at this time.
Judge, I think the issue is ultimately going to hinge upon whether the defendant wants to meet with an attorney out at the jail, and that might be very difficult to accommodate if we are doing a quick set in this case. So if we really want to see this case go forward to some sort of successful resolution, one way or another, whatever that may be, we're probably going to have to afford a certain amount of time to allow court-appointed counsel to be able to find time in their schedule to be able to meet with the defendant, properly advise them, and come back. So it's a delicate balance, I guess, is what I'm getting at, Judge.
And so what are you recommending?
14 days.
14 days. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. We lost Mr. Strom during that argument. Mr. Strom, are you back?
I'm here, Your Honor, yeah.
Okay, I was just asking city for recommendations on when to reset this matter. Their recommendation is 14 days to not prejudice defendant more than the original sentence request. In my mind, I've kind of got two options. I can give a quick return date with no additional information, or I could do a little bit longer return date in order for something like an all health evaluation that might help the parties come to some reasonable dispositions in these matters if Mr. Beal would cooperate with that process. Do you have any suggestion?
Your Honor, I wouldn't want to delay it too far given the 20-day recommendation that he's already in for 6. So I would, shorter than 14 days, hopefully. And if you want to do a hybrid with the all health as well, but I would request shorter than the 14 days.
Okay, and so I'm likely to reset this matter next week then to about the next Friday in order that all health complete an evaluation and visit him at the jail. And I'm going to try to encourage Mr. Buell to cooperate with that process if he would like. But I do think that that would benefit him both in this case and personally. Let's go ahead and Mr. Buell, please stop talking for a moment. I see that you're still trying to talk. The court's going to reset your matter for next week, okay? I am likely to grant the city's additional request for condition to stay away from the Walmart located at 601 Englewood Parkway. So if you are successful in posting the $50 bond, please make sure, number one, you appear at court, and number two, that you stay away from the Walmart here in Englewood. I know that Mr. Buell probably doesn't hear a lot of these advisements. I hear him kind of continuously trying to talk over the advisements in this matter. And again, that's why the court does have some concern regarding his understanding and keeping the bail at $50 cash only bail amount through next Friday. And I'm going to order All Health come visit you, Mr. Buell. I encourage you to work with the All Health counselor who will come visit you in custody. I think that can only benefit you in this matter as well as personally. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be heard before I end the hearing, Mr. Buell. I'm going to unmute you here in a moment. Please just try to cooperate with the process because I do want to give you an opportunity to be heard before I let you go. Anything further from the city on this matter?
No.
Anything further from Mr. Strom on this matter?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Buell, do you have questions or concerns about today's proceeding?
Allowed to talk to you today.
I'm sorry, you want to talk to me today?
For hours. How long can I talk to you uninterrupted? I want to talk to you for hours with a sidebar.
Unfortunately, the jail only gives us about an hour, so we probably got, in general, in your cases, minutes, not hours. But I try to
have minutes. This is what I'm going to say with my minutes. I am requesting a full psychiatric evaluation immediately.
Okay.
Can you repeat back what I said?
A full psychiatric evaluation. And in fact, I'm going to order that All Health provide that, what we call a mental health evaluation, and they're going to come visit you at the jail between now and your next court date. I encourage you, for your own benefit, to cooperate with that program, and it sounds like you want to be evaluated, and so I'm encouraged to hear that.
Yes, Your Honor, I want a full psychiatric evaluation, and I want you to call the colonel at Dove Way Proving Grounds and tell him my name. The colonel at Dove Way Proving Grounds and tell him my full name, social security number, and date of birth. Tell me what Dove Way Proving Grounds is. Do you know what it is?
I do
Yes or
not,
no?
sir, and, at this time, I'm not gonna, answer your questions. I hope you can understand, some of the proceedings, but I'm looking forward to discussing this more with you next
And
week.
I am refusing to plead guilty or innocent. I am refusing to plead guilty or innocent. I am tripping balls right now from my solitary confinement. Everything looks like the movie Waking Life. Watch the movie Waking Life. I am not competent for trial because I've been under solitary confinement.
Please make
for
sure you let
hallucinations.
the deputies and the sheriff be aware of any needs that you have. I'm gonna look forward again to calling your case next Friday, hopefully with some additional information. I encourage you to cooperate with that evaluation through All Health, and you have a wonderful day, okay? And at this time, I apologize, just to make the clarity record clear, upholding the $50 cash bail, and I'm adding the condition of no contact with Walmart. Mr. Buell, I don't anticipate you're gonna post this $50, but if you do, make sure you show up to court and stay away from the Walmart, okay?
I will not leave the jail until until I get a full psychic evaluation because I do not belong here. You do not understand the American Disabilities Act. How did you become a judge? How did you become a judge? Did you get out of a Cracker Jack box?
Okay, and I look forward to some future discussions next time, Mr. Buell, okay?
Put the number of code to me.
I think I'm gonna end the hearing at this point. Good luck to you, Mr. Buell. We'll look forward to future communications next week.
You don't even know the Nuremberg Code. You thought I was a moron.
Let's go ahead and mute Mr. Buell. Okay, so at this time, court's going to stand in recess briefly. We do have a couple other in-custody matters, so I'll just wait for deputy to tell us when we're ready. Court will be in recess. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Recording stopped.